Good evening, friends. Let us be still a moment. No reaching, no pleading, only the quiet acknowledgement that the presence is here. Tonight, you're about to hear 4 simple words that turned all possible into inevitable, words that did not work by force or ritual, but by resting in the awareness that there is no power apart from God. Not a formula, but a doorway. When the mind stops resisting appearances and yields to the one presence, the so-called incurable loses its claim, and the inner light does what effort never could. Before we speak them, we'll touch that silence in which words become life. Because outside of that silence, they are only syllables. Within it, they are spirit. If this resonates, like the video comment 444 to say, "I'm ready to receive," and subscribe so we can walk this way together, shall we step into that stillness and discover why 4 ordinary words can open an extraordinary door? In that stillness, notice how the mind wants to reach for a remedy, a verse, a technique. Let it rest. One presence, one power. Not 2 powers battling for dominion, not spirit and matter in contention, but the indivisible life that is being itself as your very awareness. When that is realized, the hypnotism of appearances loosens its grip because a shadow has no law to sustain itself in the light. We are not declaring this as a charm. We are returning to what is eternally so. The minute we set up a second power, disease, lack, fear, we begin to project defenses and countermeasures, and with them the strain of living by our own wits. But when the heart consents to one, the need to oppose dissolves, and the act of beholding replaces the habit of resisting. We are not here to fight error, for error has no entity. We are here to witness God being God. Consider how the body is taken as a separate authority, issuing decrees that must be obeyed. Consider how the bank account seems to speak with finality, how the headlines seem to control the collective mood. Each is a picture, and the picture claims power only when we grant it belief. Bring the picture into the silence, and it yields to the presence that never left. The organ has no power to fail, the dollar has no power to save, the world has no power to frighten. For none of these are powers in the one. One presence means no place where God is not. One power means no force capable of thwarting God where God is. This is not an argument, it is a seeing. It is the inner assent that says, I will not divide reality. I will not try to use spirit to fix matter, as though matter were a rival realm. I will rest in spirit and watch the picture conform to what is realized at the center. And so, when a condition presents itself, pain, conflict, injustice, we do not take sides with or against the picture. We retire into the sanctuary and we listen. We let the soft awareness of I am fill the field. In that gentle recognition, the sense of two subsides, and with it the urgency to manipulate. Even prayer becomes silence, not asking for changes out there, but admitting the presence here. There is an innocence to this way. A child can do it, because it is not done by effort. The Father doth the works. Our function is receptivity, beholding, consent. The fruit is peace first, then, as needed, adjustments in the scene, sometimes swift, sometimes gradual, always natural. The more faithfully we abide in one, the less reality we unconsciously lend to the many claims that parade across the screen of sense. Hold this softly, nothing to oppose, nothing to fix, nothing to fear. Only one being all, revealing itself as harmony, as law, as supply, as life, as love. Practice this in the ordinary while washing dishes, greeting a stranger, reading a bill. Let the simple awareness, one presence, one power, be the atmosphere of each act. When disturbance arises, do not argue. Acknowledge the one and be still. The picture will write itself as the inner agreement holds. Gently, quietly, let it live you. That is why we enter the silence first. Before opinions, before remedies, before even holy words, we step back from the noise of the senses and let awareness turn upon itself. Not a trance, not a blank, but a living hush in which the inner ear awakens. Here, the compulsion to fix, to argue, to persuade loosens, and something gentle begins to overshadow the mind. The silence is not achieved by force. You do not push thoughts away, you cease giving them your allegiance. Let them pass like birds across an open sky. Your interest is not in their flights but in the sky, vast, untroubled, ever present. As attention rests there, a softness comes, a weightlessness, and with it the intimation of presence, not a second self, but the very I that is aware. Enter simply, close the outer door. If you can, close the eyes. Breathe once or twice, not as a technique, but as a courtesy to the body. Then listen, not for a voice, but for the quality of being that requires no words to be known. If a sacred sentence arises, let it be a doorway, not an object. Pause in its wake and let the awareness behind it spread. When a call for help comes, a diagnosis, a crisis, do not hurry to treat. Let the phone ring once more, or lay a hand upon the chair back and be still. Yield the personal sense of healer, fixer, parent, provider. In that surrender, you are not abandoning responsibility, you are returning it to the one that is truly responsible. Often, in that instant of yieldedness, the sting of fear dissolves, and you can hear what is not heard by the anxious mind. Thoughts will parade memories, plans, interpretations. Do not argue with them, and do not baptize them as yours. Acknowledge the presence, and let attention recline in it, lightly, like a feather on still water. If distraction carries you off, simply notice and come back. The coming back is the practice, the silence is already here. From this inner hush, authority is felt, not asserted. Words spoken after the silence bear a different weight. Because they are not yours, they arise as release, not as effort. Sometimes no words are given, only a deep, causeless peace. Do not suspect that nothing has happened. Peace is the signature that the work is underway at a level the mind does not manage. Make a habit of beginning every undertaking in this way. Before you open the news, before you answer the email, before you take the pill or pay the bill, pause. A few seconds may suffice. It is not the length but the yielding that matters. As you practice, you will find the silence accessible in the marketplace as in the prayer chair, between sentences in a meeting, at a stoplight, while washing a cup. Notice how action clarifies after the silence. The next step is simple, unforced. Sometimes you are moved to speak, sometimes to be quiet, sometimes to go, sometimes to wait. The strain of choosing lifts because you are not inventing outcomes, you are consenting to what the presence is already being. Of a symptom, a conflict, a lack, arrives as a change of atmosphere rather than as a battle won. And if fear resurges, return at once. Frequent, brief turnings within keep the surface of mind clear, like skimming a pool so the water can reflect the sky. In this way the practice ceases to be an event and becomes a way of seeing, and the silence becomes the secret place you carry into every appearance, letting it reveal its true, harmless nature in the light of what is known within. From this inner hush, we begin to recognize why appearances exert no authority. The picture that confronts us may be loud, detailed, insistent, yet it is still a picture, a report delivered by the senses, not the substance of being. What seems to threaten, limit, or entice derives its suggestion of power from our belief in it. Withdraw the belief, and the seeming power subsides, just as a dream collapses when the sleeper wakes. Presence is cause, appearances are effects, and effects do not dictate to their cause. In the silence we are reminded that only God acts, and what God does is forever self-consistent with its nature. Wholeness, harmony, life. Do not quarrel with the picture. Quarreling binds you to it. Resting in the awareness of one, you recognize the mesmeric nature of sense testimony. Mesmerism is not a thing, it is a way of seeing that mistakes the moving image for an independent power. Call it suggestion, hypnosis, the world's spell, it is all the same pretense of a second cause. In practice this means that we stop asking the picture for truth. The thermometer, the ledger, the headline, the face across the table cannot inform you of reality. They can only announce their own transience. You may use them as you would use weather, to decide whether to carry an umbrella, but not to decide what God is. When a symptom flares, do not rush to battle it. and do not make a shrine of it by constant inspection. Turn within and acknowledge the presence that is the life of your being. As this acknowledgement settles, you may find the fear that held the symptom in place begins to loosen, like fingers uncurling from a knot. Sometimes the picture shifts at once. Sometimes it lingers without bite, as if its batteries were removed. Either way, your work is the same: to withhold your consent from the appearance as power, and to yield your consent to the presence as all. This is not indifference, it is fidelity to cause. Consider the common pressures: the bill due, the deadline, or the angry voice, the lonely room. Each arrives with an argument: I can make or break you. Hear it, but do not swear to it. Return to sanctuary and let the stillness name you. Then, if a step is to be taken, it will be dictated by peace rather than panic, by clarity rather than compulsion. Often a simple provision appears, or a conversation softens, or a way opens that was not visible under strain. Sometimes nothing visible changes at first, yet the tyranny lifts. You are free in the midst of the same facts, and the facts soon reorganize around that freedom. As you abide, you begin to notice that what we had called powers, economy, biology, personality, chance, behave like characters in a play. They speak their lines, but they do not write the script. The script is the invisible law of the one being itself. So we stop personalizing both the help and the harm. We do not grant a person, a place, or a thing the status of power, whether to bless or to wound. We let them be instruments, appearances through which the already is shines or seems obscured, while our loyalty rests with the source, untouched, sufficient, and present. To impersonalize person, place, and thing is to let the masks fall from the stage and see only the light playing every role. The personal sense insists, he did this to me, she can save me. That city is dangerous. This medicine is my hope. The instant we assign causation to a face, a location, or an object, we enthrone a second power. Impersonalization does not erase uniqueness or affection. It removes idolatry. It refuses to award authority to what is merely appearance, however beloved or despised, and returns authority to the one acting, as all true being begin with persons. In healing, we do not attempt to fix a man or improve a woman. We do not accuse the patient of failure, nor secretly admire the practitioner for success. We recognize the claim of a self apart from God as the only culprit, and even that culprit is without law or source. This dissolves blame and self-heroics alike. Condemnation gives the picture glue. Compassion, grounded in impersonal seeing, lets it unstick. If conduct must be corrected, let it be done as you would adjust a garment, firmly if needed, but without hatred, knowing that the wearer is not the wrinkle. Forgiveness becomes natural because there is no one to indict, only a fog to outshine. Praise, too, is gentled. We accept appreciation without swallowing the bait of personal doership. Remembering, the Father doth the works, then consider place. We are tempted to make shrines of certain rooms or deserts of certain neighborhoods. We imagine safety or danger in a zip code, holiness in a building, stagnation in a job title. Yet place is how consciousness localizes itself to your present seeing. When you stand still inside, the ground beneath your feet is sanctified by that stillness. When you are divided, even a sanctuary can feel barren. We go where we are led, but not to hunt for God, only to let the awareness we carry find expression there. This frees us to move without superstition and to stay without fear. Economy, climate, culture seem to dictate. They do not. They are currents, not causes, and the cause is already here now. Things. Money, medicine, contracts, food, devices, sacred objects, none possess independent power to bless or to curse. They are vessels. Use them as you are inwardly prompted, gratefully and without bondage, as means that grace may choose in a moment, not as gods to be appeased or devils to be shunned. A pill is not a savior, a germ is not a tyrant, a check is not supply, a weapon is not domination. When we cease arguing for or against the object and rest in presence, we find ourselves guided in exact, practical ways, sometimes to employ a means, sometimes to lay it down, always with the quiet knowing that authority remains with the invisible. This impersonal stance softens all relationships. Criticism arrives, and instead of bristling, you feel the tug of an ancient suggestion, a belief in separation, asking for agreement. You deny it, that agreement, and answer from peace. Compliments arrive, and instead of clinging, you let them pass through, honoring the love while declining the crown. In conflict, you address the atmosphere, not the actor in need. You turn to source, not to a favored channel. In danger, you recognize the hypnotic claim without letting it borrow your name. Try this in small ways. The next time you feel reactive towards someone, say within, not person, not place, not thing, only a claim without law, and the living presence that is all. And let your seeing hold steady until the scene begins to mirror what you are consenting to behold. This is the heart of being the beholder, not the doer. The personal sense is forever scheming, urging, pushing, fixing, eager to prove its worth by results. The spiritual way is the opposite. I can of mine own self do nothing. Not a confession of weakness, but a recognition of order. The door belongs to the dream of separation. The beholder abides in the eye that witnesses God being God. In this stance, you are not inert, you are transparent. Like a clear window, you do not manufacture light. You let it pass unobstructed. Work still occurs, words are still spoken, hands still move. But the strain of authorship is absent, and with it the friction that breeds fear and failure. Practice begins in the quiet. Turn within and sense the awareness that is aware. Notice that seeing happens without pushing. Let attention rest as that seeing. When a thought says, do something or else, answer gently, I will behold. To behold is to consent to the presence as all law and action, and to refuse the bait of personal rescue missions. You are not withdrawing love. You are yielding to love's own initiative, which is wise, timely, and exact. This is not passivity. It is the most potent form of participation. What from the beholder's seat, motion arises as peace moving. You may be prompted to speak one sentence instead of 20, to make one phone call instead of 10, to wait an hour instead of forcing a premature solution. The difference is felt in the body, a softening where urgency had clenched, a steadiness where jitter had ruled. The harvest is accuracy, doing the right thing in the right measure, at the right time, because it is no longer your doing. Try it in conversation. As someone unloads anger, the door rushes to defend, explain, or fix them. The beholder lets the storm blow past the cliff face of silence within. When a word comes, it carries the authority of quiet, and it often disarms without contest. Try it at the sickbed. The door catalogues symptoms and strategies. The beholder turns to the I am and watches fear lose oxygen. Sometimes the pain dissolves as dew under sun. Sometimes a simple, precise step appears. A rest, a sip of water, a call to make, without the freight of panic. Try it with money. The doer scrambles between schemes. The beholder acknowledges supplier's presence, then acts under that acknowledgement. Writing the email, accepting the assignment, declining the bait. Without bowing to the ledger as Lord, the temptation will be to peek at outcomes and take credit or assign blame. That is the doer creeping back in. Let results be God's business. Your single task is fidelity to beholding. When you catch yourself forcing, stop at once and return to the inner altitude, where seeing is clear and quiet. Often one sincere return spares hours of churn. Make frequent, light pivots into this stance. Before pressing send, before speaking your next sentence, before taking the pill, before stepping into the meeting, even vigorous action can issue from beholding. There are moments when love moves swiftly. Sign a paper, leave a room, set a boundary, bind a wound. The energy is clean, not combative. There is no aftertaste of self-importance. You know it by the peace that remains and the absence of inner debate. In this way you become a transparency for grace, not the painter, but the canvas receiving the stroke, not the musician, but the instrument through which the note sounds, not the sun, but the window kept clean so the room naturally fills with light from here. The 4 words matter only as a window, never as a wand. Those 4 words, one presence, one power, have no virtue in their sound. What if virtue is in the state of consciousness from which they are known? Recited, they are a charm the mind throws at a problem. Realized, they are the quiet recognition that dissolves the problem's premise. The difference is subtle, but absolute recitation tries to make something happen. Realization witnesses what already is. How do you tell which is which? If you are watching the clock, gauging outcomes, feeling the pulse for a sign, you are reciting. If you feel a soft unclenching inside, a causeless sufficiency that requires nothing of the picture, you are nearing realization. Recitation keeps peeking to see if the words are working. Realization forgets the words because it is resting in the word. The living presence that precedes and outshines every syllable. Use the words as a doorway. Enter the silence first. Let attention settle until the I must loosens. Then, softly, within, acknowledge one presence, one power. Do not hurl the phrase at a symptom or a circumstance. Offer it into the stillness like a leaf placed on water, and wait. If the phrase disappears and only peace remains, do not fetch it back. The disappearance is the sign that the essence has registered beyond thought in practice. This means you may speak them once, or not at all. You may simply feel their meaning without language, the indivisibility of God as all being, the absence of any rival agency. When fear wants repetition as insurance, smile inwardly and return to beholding. The mind will ask for more words. The spirit asks for less. It is the realized quality that heals, not the recurrence of sound. Just as sunlight warms whether or not you name it, so the realized awareness acts whether or not you declare it aloud. In the midst of a call for help, you may notice the urge to assert the 4 words into the room. Test the spirit of that urge. If it carries strain, retire again and let the assertion die into presence. If a simple unforced utterance arises, let it be for you, not addressed to the appearance, and follow it with listening. Often the power is felt as a hush that fills the space, sometimes as a sweetness, sometimes as a steady knowing that leaves no room for argument. The picture may shift swiftly or slowly, but you are not timing God. You are abiding where outcomes are already embraced in wholeness. Remember, we do not use words to bend matter, we consent to reality to reveal itself. The 4 words are a pointer to the indivisible law that is already operative. When realization is present, you feel a release from bargaining. No more. If I say it enough, it will work. Instead, there is a sense of already, of is. Even a single breath may carry the whole prayer, because the prayer is not petition but recognition. You may find that over time the phrase ripens. Early on it comforts, later it clarifies, eventually it may fall away, leaving only the ingredient it was pointing to. This is not loss but fulfillment. The goal of every true word is to be outgrown by the word, presence consciously known. Then wherever you are, at a bedside, in a boardroom, on a street, there is a quiet certainty, and the words, if they come at all, come as a feathered echo of the silence that is doing the seeing and the healing.